Have you experienced it too? Found yourself face to face with things you cannot explain, no matter how hard you try? Scientists go through the same thing again and again. Recognized researchers stand before discoveries which they cannot explain and which go beyond any accepted scientific theory. Join me on a journey into the unknown, into the mysterious. But please, don't expect any answers. Life, no more than a tiny moment in a universe whose awesome expanses reach far beyond anything we can imagine. The reason for our existence in this unbelievable cosmos made of space presents countless riddles to the human mind. Much of what has been created by humans over the millennia has been part of our effort to solve these secrets. But our planet reveals its secrets only reluctantly, and the deeper we delve into its history, the more questions remain open. Today, modern science has made it possible for us to look deep into the past. The theory of evolution presented a compelling picture of the development of life, from primitive bacteria to complex organisms. But the few clues researchers have discovered can't tell us everything. When evolution is retraced, it is full of gaps. Sometimes a single find can cast doubt on all previous knowledge. One such find may have been made in this valley. The monastery of Santo Ecce-Homo. It lies in the northern foothills of the Andes in Colombia, a region which was bustling with life 100 million years ago. Thousands of faithful walk heedlessly over fossil remains of plants and animals, which were used for decoration by the monks who built this monastery 300 years ago. Thereby, they missed a great deal. A fossil fruit is embedded in this wall altar. A pineapple. But who could have cultivated this fruit during a time when dinosaurs ruled the world? Not far from the monastery, another unusual discovery was made. Fossilized hands. They were discovered in a layer of stone which is geologically dated to being between 100 and 130 million years old. An artifact which should not exist since the first hominids did not appear until 5 to 7 million years ago. There might be a simple explanation for this riddle, but what if scientific studies support the unbelievable age of these hands? Would we need to rethink our theories about mankind and its creation?
Das Grundprinzip der Wissenschaft ist die Nachprüfbarkeit.
The basic principle of science is verifiability. which we can obtain most quickly and thoroughly through measurements.
Theorie,
So every theory should be shored up by measurements.
alles, was nicht messbar
Anything
ist,
which cannot be measured
im Experiment
must be made measurable in an experiment.
gemacht werden.
However,
Die
the
Frage
question remains
nur,
whether this is the only conceivable method in our search for the truth.
der Erkenntnis ist.
An inconspicuous hill in the Ecuadorian highlands. Here lie the paltry remains of an ancient Inca shrine. The civil engineer, Cristobal Cobo, has spent years studying this place, which the Indians call Intinan, the path of the sun. I am standing exactly at 0 latitude, 0 degrees, 0 minutes, 0 seconds, at 78 degrees longitude, 25 minutes and 43 seconds. So, exactly at 0 degrees latitude, the Indians possessed this perfection 3,500 years ago. In 1735, 0 latitude, the equator was measured by the French Academy of Sciences. One result of this discovery was the building of a monument in the valley to mark the equator, several hundred meters away from here. It is mitad del mundo, the middle of the earth. For tourists, it is a unique experience to stand one foot in the northern and the other in the southern hemisphere. But do they also know that satellite navigation shows the monument several seconds off the real equator? For ancient peoples, precise knowledge of the equator was not just an exercise in measuring, it was life-preserving.
Para los primeros nómadas tenían que saber esto para saber cómo cazar y cuándo cazar sus animales, cuándo pescar.
The first nomads needed to know when and where to hunt or fish, or when to go gathering. When humans began to settle down in specific areas, they needed to develop even more precise knowledge to recognize the best times for planting and harvesting. They were forced to keep developing their knowledge of astronomy. It was the best way to organize their work.
Para poder organizarse, para poder optimizar sus suelos y llevar a cabo todas estas tareas.
Cristobal Cobo believes that he has found one of the most important holy sites of the indigenous Indians on this hill. For his scientific research, he has investigated the astronomical connections between diverse archaeological sites in the Andes. He was able to determine that a majority of the sites were built on lines that originate here and spread out precisely following the movement of the sun at the beginning of the seasons. Is he rediscovering a gigantic ancient calendar whose precision we may only recently have been able to replicate?
El que estas culturas se hayan podido desarrollar hace miles de años, esto no significa que
These cultures developed more than 1,000 years ago. That does not mean that the people were dumb or primitive. They were capable of acquiring far-reaching knowledge, and to do so in a very comprehensive manner, since there were no external influences that could have had a negative impact. We should not belittle the achievements of our Indios. They were capable of ruling over time and space in a natural way, which benefited everyone. We can only try to make an educated guess about how much knowledge our ancestors had and how they put it to use. There is no conclusive evidence. But again and again, we stumble across new, perplexing artifacts which suggest that our ancestors had capabilities far beyond our imagination. Stone sculptures from the West African Republic of Sierra Leone. They were found 10 meters below the current layer of soil. We know virtually nothing about the culture that made them. In the belly of one of these figures, a tightly enclosed space was discovered, and in it was nearly a perfect metal sphere, possibly 12,000 years old. Discoveries like these do not fit into any of the current scientific theories, which is why most scientists doubt their authenticity. But is this the way to solve the mysteries of our history? Even if much of it cannot be explained at first glance.
Museen und Sammlungen stehen in Wahrheit vor einem Berg.
Museums and collections are truly faced with a mountain of problems. Scientific research requires money and costs a lot of time.
Die Depots sind
Their depots are filled to the brim with unexamined objects about which we at least know something about the circumstances surrounding their discovery.
anders ist dies
The situation is different with many private collectors. Cuenca, a small town in Ecuador. The Italian Salesian priest Carlo Crespi lived here and was, while still alive, hailed as a saint by the local population. For good reason. He dedicated his life to helping the poorest members of society, mostly Indios.
El padre Crespi tenía una visión sociológica muy grande. Nunca se corría frente a
Father Crespi had a great vision for society. He never turned away from poverty. When I was studying philosophy here, it would happen quite often that a woman came to see him because she could not afford the school fees for her son. His answer was, take it, the sucre, and go enroll your son. That's how generous he was. His trust knew no bounds. He simply put her hand in his pocket and pulled it back out. Many people were touched by this. They called him the bottomless pocket because he gave everything he had to the poor. He never kept anything just for himself. Everything was for others. Father Crespi had another passion, collecting historical artifacts. He encouraged the Indians to look for relics of their forefathers and bought the ones they found. In this way, he could help them without degrading the Indios as beggars. It soon turned into a famous collection of fascinating archaeological treasures, many of whom came from virtually unknown pre-Columbian subterranean systems. Father Crespi never attempted to classify his artifacts. It is possible that many archaeologists visited his museum, but he never commissioned a thorough investigation by recognized archaeologists, which would have helped him classify them according to cultures. He never made such a classification. It was finally carried out by the Banco Central. The collection was completely disorganized. It was a potpourri, not a museum. Several scientists took advantage of this situation and removed books and writings. Many people even tried to steal whole artifacts. This is why many pieces pictured in the books are no longer in Father Crespi's museum. In addition, parts of the collection were destroyed by a fire in the monastery. Others lost during renovation work, and some depots simply disappeared after Crespi's death. Little more was left than the myth of Father Crespi's treasure vault. Yet a few thousand objects still exist, an inconceivable chaos, undecipherable for scientists, the leftovers of completely unknown cultures mixed with forgeries from our own time. These plates were made by the Indians themselves from old advertisements or sheet metal, when they needed money and weren't lucky enough to find real artifacts. It didn't matter to Crespi.
Toma sin discutir, sea o no sea.
He took everything, never asked after its authenticity. He wanted to help everyone who brought him something. That's how he was. I said to him more than once, "Padre, that is a fake," but he played dumb, just to help people.
Y entonces ayudaba en todo.
It is very likely that unique archaeological treasures, which could shed light on the mysteries of South America's ancient inhabitants, are buried under all these pieces, maybe even a sensation or two. But they are for all intents and purposes lost to us, because a scientific investigation is nearly impossible after everything that has happened. We can find grandiose testaments to high cultures in ancient times all over the world. Sumerians, Egyptians, Mayas, or like here, Incas. But even these high cultures, as clear as their traces may be, still leave us with mysteries. How, for example, could the Inca masons build such intricate structures with stones but no mortar? We still don't know. How much more lies hidden to our eyes? Evidence of early cultures, their everyday lives, their culture, their capabilities. What would the rituals that took place here at this holy site maybe 1,000 years ago have looked like? All too often, the vague description sacred is only a polite way of saying that we really know nothing at all. But above all, we have to ask ourselves if these people, whose traces we can barely follow, were really as primitive as we assume.
Pyramiden gab es nicht nur in Ägypten, in Mexiko,
Pyramids existed not only in Egypt, Mexico, Middle and South America, but also in China, in Australia, and most likely also on Tenerife and Sardinia.
gab es also zwischen all diesen
Could there have been contact between the continents, cultural contact, or is there maybe even an archetype of the pyramid somewhere in this world?
irgendwo auf dieser Welt eine Urform der Pyramide?
The mysteries surrounding the pyramids fascinate many people. It's not just the structural forms that can be found all over the world. There are also countless artifacts on which the pyramid appears as a symbol. We can only wonder about the connections. What might the signs on this stone mean? Was there really a culture once which built the first pyramid and later passed on its knowledge to other peoples? A high culture which sank long ago. Some think Atlantis. Can these pyramid-like stones give us any information? Over the millennia, the most diverse cultures have used the symbol of the pyramid with the eye, even today. This pyramid stone harbors an extraordinary mystery. It was found together with two other artifacts, a sort of metal helmet and a stone engraved with strange scenes. A figure holds a pyramid stone and sends rays to a being that is bowed over. On the head of the figure is a helmet, which seems to have a connection with a shining object above the figure. A mysterious find, which can be traced back to the jungles of Ecuador. There was a gold boom here once, which led to extensive strip mining, but the rich veins have all been exhausted. a few poor Indians barely managed to scrape enough gold together to support their meager existence. But the deserted tunnels still guard their secrets, the remains of a civilization that was swallowed by the jungle long ago. This is where the pyramid stone and the helmet were found, as was this stone. A natural quartz vein runs through it. Around it, man-made lines are grouped, reminiscent of an outline. Markers have been added at 2 points. Their age, probably more than 8,000 years.
Esto sí fue para mí un rompecabezas.
That was a true riddle for me. I still don't understand it, and I don't think there is anyone on this earth who could understand it.
Nadie que entienda cómo.
Elias Sotomayor, a chief engineer in one of the big gold mine companies, found several of these mystery artifacts by chance in the 80s. When the company left, he stayed because he had, in his own words, caught a new kind of gold fever, the fever to explain the past.
Aquí creo que era la subestación de una civilización cuyo origen estaba
I
en
believe that a
Mesopotamia.
civilization whose origins lay in Mesopotamia once existed here.
Aquí, por muchas
There are several reasons.
Primero,
For one
el
thing,
enorme
because of the
campo
enormous magnetic energy of these mountains. There's a lot of ore in them, with many different minerals.
Luego también,
For another,
por disponer
there's a
de
lot of water
agua
here,
que tiene
which
gold
contains organic gold.
que la ciencia oficial ahora
Established
no
scientists
acepta.
don't accept the existence of organic gold,
Pero
but
eso
that
ahí
does
lo
not
tiene
matter to me.
certificado.
It is there and I drink it.
Él está ahí y yo lo tomo y punto.
Organic gold. It is said to exist in the water of one of the springs near the tunnels. At least, that is what the mining engineer claims. It crystallizes differently than the natural gold, which he searched for many years. Gold, which was supposedly brought here long ago by a civilization that could have been older than the Sumerians. Was this region really an ancient high culture's hidden land of gold? This idea has fascinated Elias Sotomayor ever since he took a closer look at the stone with the strange lines. If the lines are interpreted as the contours of the continents, one of the marks could be a place in Mesopotamia. Follow the line of quartz on this world map across the stone towards the west, and it stops in a location in South America, in Ecuador. The path passes a continent which does not exist in our time. Perhaps Atlantis? Who were the creators of these stones that Elias Sotomayor has been wrestling from the jungle for more than 20 years? They were surely not primitive. Quite the contrary. It is difficult to get rid of a sense that these stones contain ancient wisdom.
¿Por qué en esta parte o en esta República del Ecuador no hay las grandes huellas?
Why is it that in this region and in the whole of Ecuador, there are no great monuments to the past, like Machu Picchu, Tiahuanaco, the great pyramids of Teotihuacan in Mexico, the Maya's pyramids, or something like that fantastic pyramids of the pharaohs in Egypt, something that gigantic? Why is there none of that here? Because it was forbidden to come here. This land belonged to the gods. Others could not enter here. That is why there were only such simple stone structures, whose stones are scattered everywhere.
Y cuyas piedras están tiradas por ahí.
Ja, man muss nicht alles glauben, was Sammler
Well,
so
we don't have to
erzählen.
believe everything
Auf der anderen
collectors tell
Seite
us.
kann
On the other
gerade
hand,
das
the strangest things can be true.
Wahre sein.
And negative proof also
Außerdem
applies
sind
to
in der
science.
Wissenschaft auch
Every
der
assertion must be backed
Umkehrschluss.
up by a negative statement.
Ich habe jede Behauptung, auch eine negative Behauptung, zu begründen. Wenn ich also
So,
sage,
if I were to say that
dass
Atlantis is a pipe
ein
dream,
Hirngespinst
or that there are certainly
ist
no
oder
such
dass
things
es
as aliens,
selbstverständlich keine Aliens
I
sind,
need to prove my
habe ich
assertion.
auch dies zu beweisen.
If I
Wenn
cannot,
wir das nicht
the question remains unsolved.
Frage offen.
Did we once have visitors from space? Did these figures emerge from the imaginations of their creators, or were they live models? Gold objects from Peru. Officially, these jewels are considered religious ornaments. But aren't they much more similar to astronauts and modern supersonic jets? What inspired the artists to create details that appear so technological? Were the gods, teachers, and bearers of culture that came from the galaxies?
Auf der anderen Seite brauchen wir
On the other hand, do we even need these aliens for an explanation?
Warum trauen wir
Why do we want to
unseren
deny
Vorfahren
our
eine größere
forefathers the
Mobilität?
possibility of greater mobility?
Es gibt genügend
There is enough
Hinweise
proof
auf
of the
die
seafaring
Tätigkeit
capabilities of the
der
Phoenicians.
Phönizier.
But
Aber
why in the
warum
world should they have been
alles in der Welt
the first?
sollen die Ersten gewesen sein?
The connection of femininity to fertility is so natural that it is not surprising when cultures all over the world fashion icons like these, even if they had no contact with each other. But how can these heads, whose characteristics are so diverse, be explained? They were made by South American Indians long before Christopher Columbus embarked on his voyage to the New World. Statues with elements of the Buddhist faith found in Ecuador. The oceans were apparently not a serious obstacle. Aren't we underestimating our ancestors' capabilities? Not a single one of these stones has been deciphered. The scratches are often interpreted as magical symbols that were used during sacred ceremonies, but hardly anyone bothers to take a closer look at their meaning. The thought that humans might have put their thoughts down with orderly signs thousands of years before the official discovery of writing by the Sumerians seems just too absurd. Were these stones used to transmit information, possibly over great distances? Many symbols on stones found at completely different locations have surprising similarities. Are they hieroglyphs from a common first alphabet? How much ancient wisdom has been lost simply because countless conquerors never valued the cultures of defeated peoples. The flow of history was often interrupted so brutally that scientists today have difficulty finding the meaning of many artifacts. Many scientists' vision is also obscured by the belief that our century is the high point of a unique process of development. The Colombian industrial designer Jaime Gutierrez does not believe in the supremacy of modern achievements. He stumbled onto the remains of a settlement which prehistoric peoples had built by the protecting cliffs in this valley, near the village of Sutatausa.
En mí hay un cambio.
I went through a process of rethinking everything. I believe that the primitive is more advanced than the development we humans are experiencing now. I believe that primitive humans had a more advanced awareness of the universe than we do today. Not because they possessed greater knowledge about the movement of the stars or the speed of rockets. Maybe they had no concept of time or sense for distances, but they had a sense of being. Many of the stones that the people of Sutatausa left behind show figures which change their form with every angle, or become entirely new figures. They all emerge from the natural form of the stone. Do these objects fit into the image that science gives us of slow-witted people in the Stone Age? Are they not the product of a mind that is fully alive, that was aware of its environment and could reflect on it?
Para el hombre primitivo, los dos elementos básicos de la vida
For a
son
primitive person,
la
death,
muerte,
love,
el amor
and survival
y
are
la
the elementary
sobrevivencia.
basics of life.
Son sus elementos
People
básicos.
really only need
Eh,
three things
El
to be
hombre
happy:
realmente
love,
no necesita sino tres
nourishment,
elementos para ser
and
feliz.
sleep.
Amar,
Everything
comer
beyond that
y
is
dormir.
superfluous. It is only a
Todo lo
means
demás
to
son
reaching these three goals.
superfluos. Son elementos que el hombre usa para lograr uno de los tres objetivos. En la misma forma, la expresión no tiene
In this
alta
sense,
tecnología,
they did not
sino
need
es
advanced
el
technology to
mínimo
express
de
themselves. They
expresiones
reduced
para
appearances to
significar
the
el
minimum
máximo.
in order
Por
to
eso
have a
las
maximum
líneas,
of
las
expression.
formas, son elementales.
This is why
Porque
the
no
lines and
quieren
forms
adornar,
are so
no
elemental.
quieren
They
poner
did not want
cosas
to decorate
superficiales al
because they did not want to add
sentimiento
anything
real,
superfluous
lo
to
que
true
quieren expresar.
perception.
Entonces,
That is why the
parecen
figures
muy
seem so
ingenuas
naive.
las figuras.
They seem to
Parecen
have been
hechas por
made
niños,
by children
porque los
because
niños
children
son
are
mucho
much
más
more holistic in their
sintéticos en su
expression than
expresión
adults.
que los grandes. Pero muchas
Most of
veces
the
esos
time, it is
refuerzos
exactly these
confunden
additions
y
that
no dejan
confuse
ver
us and obstruct a
claramente
clear
la
view
esencia
of the
de
essential
la
things.
expresión.
Taugt unsere Wissenschaft überhaupt dazu,
Is our science
alle
even
Fragen des
capable of giving
Lebens
unprejudiced answers to all the questions of life?
oder sind
Or
hier nicht
are other
andere
parameters decisive
Parameter
here?
maßgebend? Kriterien, die
Criteria
sich
which
nicht
do not
der
follow
Forderung
Galileo's assertion
Galileis
that everything must be
dass
measurable.
alles messbar sein muss. Wo sind die
What,
Maßstäbe
for example, are the standards for measuring the mind or the soul
der Seele
or
oder
even
der Kreativität?
creativity? Scientists have long pondered the amazing astronomical knowledge of the West African tribe of the Dogon. They have known about Sirius's companion star, which is not visible to the naked eye, for centuries. Their myths tell us that they gained this knowledge from fish people who came to them from heavenly arks. If something is not allowed to exist, it cannot exist. That's why ethnologists claim that it was early missionaries who told the Dogon about Sirius. The one-sided value put on logic in our society demands rational answers. But some mysteries might not be mysterious at all if science would just change its position a little and maybe put a little faith in the old myths.
Más interesante de toda la colección es
The
el
most
disco
interesting
genético.
piece in the whole collection
Toda esta
is
parte
this genetic
que
disc.
demuestra el
This
hombre
part
rana
depicts the
la
male
mujer
frog, the female,
y
and
toda
the
la
entire genetic
evolución
development of the frog,
del feto
from the fetus
del acuario,
to the tadpole.
la parte genética de la rana. Y de esta división en
Not just
adelante,
that, the symbols shown in relief
la evolución
give the impression that genetic parallels between humans and frogs are shown. Details like the egg, sperm, ovaries, cell division, and embryos in different stages of development are clearly visible. How could people have known about processes that can only be seen under a microscope? And why is the development of an amphibian to a human pictured? Countless myths around the world have to do with creatures that are both human and animal. Are they mere fiction, or do they hint of long-lost knowledge? A knowledge that could look deep into nature, maybe deeper than we can today. The Trans-American Highway in Peru. It cuts through a desert which is said to conceal a rare secret of history. They say that traces of ancient peoples were found here. But Javier Cabrera, a doctor in Inca who found them, won't say exactly where.
Hace muchos años atrás, el año 1966,
Many
un 13
years
de
ago,
mayo
in
de
1966,
1966,
on May 13th, 1966 to be exact, it was my name day, a friend, a poor photographer, brought me a stone engraved with a fish. He gave it to me as a gift.
y me dice, te lo obsequio.
I felt that was of grave importance, that the signs on it were far more important than a simple drawing.
Ese dibujo tenía que tener algo más que un simple dibujo.
The gift was the beginning of an impressive collection of more than 10,000 engraved stones, the famous stone library of Ica. In the rooms of the former doctor's office, unbelievable artifacts that are supposedly 65 million years old are stored. Humans riding on dinosaurs, complicated surgeries, a world map showing Atlantis. traces of humanity long before our human existence.
Las piedras grabadas de Ica contienen un mensaje.
The engraved stones from Ica contain a message from people, also from other forms of life, but they mainly involve people. The message left behind in the stones tells us how people's lives should be, how people who, through the misuse of knowledge and technology, destroyed themselves, how they should change to again become closer to what they once were. The only problem is that the majority of the collection is forged. Studies have proven this, and Indios have testified that they have been making stones after patterns they received from Dr. Cabrera for decades. But he swears to the authenticity of his pieces.
Entonces, yo comprendí desde un comienzo.
It was clear to me from the beginning that this would not be easily accepted. It was logical, because this does not fit into our thinking. We have been taught to expect other messages. So it naturally comes to an enormous conflict between traditional knowledge, which is mistaken, and the ideas which are searching for the truth. We still have to find this truth. Not only the truth is not clear, but also the motivation. Why would someone forge thousands of artifacts which are so unbelievable that they are already cast into doubt?
Die Antikenverwaltung von Peru ist
Peru's Department of Antiques is extremely displeased about this collection. On the other hand, are we as scientists at all times and in every situation as honest and impartial as ethics would require? Or do we tend to over-eagerly dismiss similar collections as forgeries, or even ignore them altogether? It is important for science to investigate these objects, especially when their authenticity is in doubt. Serious investigations could replace long-lived myths with clear explanations. Quite a few mysteries could be solved. But many artifacts also pose uncomfortable questions, questions that undermine the foundations of ivory towers. Is it fear that keeps many scientists from confronting these mysterious objects? This pot, for example, from Father Crespi's collection. It's authentic and ancient, but no one can explain with what techniques its perfect form could have been created from a block of granite. Among the many archaeological rarities that Jaime Gutierrez owns are stone tools that demonstrate the unique technological skill of the pre-Columbian Indians. Some are so delicate that they would break on contact with modern carving tools, like these needles from waxworking.
Ellos producían las láminas de cera y las
They produced
clavaban
thin
y
wax
tallaban
plates which could be engraved and formed with very fine, exquisite objects. They fit perfectly into the hand when you work with them.
de la mano para poder grabar en ellas. Esta protuberancia
This bulge serves as a counterweight.
de la pieza para sentir
It's held very easily in the hand, like this.
Este es un ejemplo
This is a classical example, a pencil with an eraser.
poniéndolo de acá se graba
Hold it like this, and it can be used to engrave the figure. If you make a mistake, erase it by scraping it away.
Es un lápiz con borrador. Con una
It has one advantage.
ventaja.
If I hold it like this, my fingers will hide my work.
No me permiten visualizar el trabajo. Entonces tiene un cuarto
But if I turn them a quarter, I can see my work.
para mover los dedos y permitirme la visión del trabajo. Este es otro elemento.
This is another piece. It becomes one with the finger for effortless engraving.
La forma cura,
The curved form keeps it from breaking.
quiebrela. Cuando el elemento era más profundo, que tenían que entrar
When they had to work deep, they used this longer piece, which was inserted in order to be able to engrave on the inside.
el simbolismo son
They are almost modern sculptures because of their simplicity. They embody the relevant things in their form.
esencia que logran en las figuras. Después de analizar todas estas piezas, encontré
After the analysis of all these pieces, I believe that their qualities are of a higher stage of development than ours today.
hoy. Sin embargo, usted puede coger
Regardless of how you hold this pen, you'll never achieve the precision of these tools.
la precisión de distancia que tienen estas herramientas. El grueso del lápiz impide un movimiento fácil.
The thickness of the pen simply prevents motion. The weight is not compensated for. With these tools, the hand's movement is much more agile, and the weight is balanced. It's as if my hand was empty. The instrument, which was developed by modern design teams for a similar purpose as this tool, can achieve neither the same quality nor the same precision.
No ha llegado al nivel cultural que llegaron estas herramientas, ni a la precisión.
Do we have to admit that the 20th century was not the first high-tech era in history? It seems so. There's more. Maybe we'll only achieve the technical and scientific development which some peoples have already possessed in our own future. Several stones from the gold tunnels in the jungles of Ecuador are now owned by Germán Villamar.
Estas piedras me las entregó Guillermo Sotomayor, un hombre a quien
Elias Sotomayor gave me these stones. I got to know him at the university and then later during the presidential race. Through a friend, I received an invitation to visit. I drove to his house, and meeting each other was a wonderful experience. Over the following years, we developed a strong friendship.
Luego de este tiempo, él me invitó una noche a su casa.
Then I paid him a visit again. When I arrived, he blindfolded me, turned off the lights, and led me to the dining room table, which was covered with a black plastic sheet. He told me to put my hands on the plastic and tell him what images I saw. Well, I saw spirals, circles, pyramids, eyes, snakes. In short, I saw strange things. He asked me if I saw colors. Yes, I saw red, blue, green colors, but not just any green, but exactly that green that the police use at night. He pulled away the plastic, and underneath it were these pieces with all the colors and forms that I had seen. Many people who have come into contact with these stones have noticed something powerful and strange radiating from them.
Yo me sentía muy mal de la cabeza por migraña, dolor, angustia.
I felt very
Un
ill,
día me acosté
had
al lado de
migraines,
una
aches,
piedra,
fears.
puse
One
mi
day I
cabeza
laid my head next
y
to a
después de
stone, and
2 o 3
after a minute or
minutos
two, I felt well again.
ya me sentí bien de
I had
nuevo.
others who had problems lie there as
Que
well,
tenían problemas,
and they felt better too.
poner, acostar ahí y sentían un alivio.
What mysterious energies do these stones possess? What culture had the capability to endow them with these powers? Whatever the secret of these artifacts may be, their glow under ultraviolet light is magical. A universe of space and time seems to open. Was this the intention of their creators?
Sollte es sich nicht doch lohnen,
Would it not be worth the effort to seek out the cause of this strange light? Like so many other unsolved mysteries in this world,